it was just a bit of an oversight. And that
Hmm.
isn't necessarily like an okay or acceptable reason. But if I'm being completely frank, it's because
Hey everyone, it's actually Jeb Bush, and today's video is a clip about the WNBA collector score change and the WNBA release. I talked to El Dumbo, who is the Top Shot community lead and the person that spearheads the Nine Lives Lounge. If you don't know who El Dumbo is, you should see him around in the Top Shot Discord and in all these other community Discords. He has a great job interacting with people and a super fun guy to talk to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and come back to see the full interview, which will be releasing very soon. Okay, yeah. So to dive down that rabbit hole real quick about the CS change, and we can cut this if you don't like there's something you can't say or something like that. But I was someone this morning who was pretty vocal about my disappointment in the change. Not because I don't think the moment should be worth a lot. I said from the get-go they should have probably been worth 18 collector score points. So because it's series 1 of the WNBA, just like series 1 of the NBA is 18 collector score points. And I get that there's like optics where it's like, oh, why are the NBA moments worth so much more than the WNBA moments and stuff like that? But it did rub me kind of the wrong way where you guys dropped is like, oh, 2 collector score points for the WNBA, but now we're just going to change it. Like we can kind of change things whenever we want. And we're just going to go ahead and change it. And obviously, I know that there's a lot of conversation that happens behind the scenes. This wasn't one person reading a post on Twitter and being like, oh my gosh, like we have to change it. But it did seem extremely reactionary as opposed to like you guys even coming out and defending why you chose 2 collector score points or explaining better why the WNBA should be worth more as opposed to just being like, oh, it's like a big deal. And this is some of the stuff I speculated on. So feel free to tell me I'm being an idiot here or not seeing it from like the perspective that you obviously do. But one of the things I said was like, yeah, like it makes sense. Like if you're a new user who joined Top Shot for the WNBA, you shouldn't have to get straight armed and forced into buying NBA moments in order to have a good collector score. So like if you're just a WNBA fan, like I'm just an NBA fan, I'm excited about these WNBA moments. I've got a couple, but I'm that's not my focus. So if you're a WNBA fan, you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to collect the whole set. Why is my collector score so low still? When I've invested like a lot personally, whether money or time or like thought into this new platform. And obviously that would coincide with possible issues with being eligible for the playoff packs and the finals packs for the WNBA. And you wouldn't want to burn a new user by being like, hey, I know you're really excited, but you can't have access to this yet because, you know, you haven't earned it. Like your collector score isn't high enough, even though you have all the WNBA moments.
yeah, I mean, so it's a complex issue because
Yeah, it
I
definitely is.
agree with the point of like changing it mid-series or mid-season. Like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, but like, I don't want to step on anyone's toes or upset anyone here. But I think we need to step back and remember, like, when we launched Collector Score, how it looked compared to how it looks now, because we've
Yeah.
tweaked it and changed it. And I do personally feel we've always said like Collector Score is this like work in progress, trying to make it, the best it can be for all
Hmm.
collectors. Now, I appreciate that when we do a change like this, people are like, well, could you change this in this moment mid-series? It's like, no, like that's not the precedent we're trying to set here. But this is
Yeah.
a whole new product on the platform. This isn't just, oh, this is a new set. This is a whole new sport we're bringing to Top Shot. So if we
Correct.
feel like the collector score isn't right, it makes sense to change it. Now, that doesn't mean that collector score for other moments can't change in the future, but we will always try to be considerate of how we do it. Like, no one on the team is okay with anything that might be like a rug pull of like, oh, reduce the collector score points. No one wants to do that, like across
Yeah.
the board. What
And
we
you guys
do
have
want
made
to
that
do,
really clear.
yeah, exactly. But what we do want to do is, like you say, we want to make it so you can be a someone who's a collector of just WNBA moments and still have a decent collector score. Like that seems like a no-brainer. Obviously, as there's not a ton of WNBA moments out right now, there's not like all the team sets out yet. There's not a bunch of sets you can collect for the bonuses. A WNBA drop will have to account for that in some way because, like,
Mhm.
it doesn't make sense to say you have to collect NBA moments to purchase more WNBA moments. I don't think that makes sense for
100%.
anyone. One thing we do there is we just adjust it by saying, okay, let's just increase WNBA collect score points. And I don't think our communication was necessarily lacking. It's just like we don't want, think about it like this. If you sign up, you don't want to see like controversy or big discussion around it. You just want to enjoy collecting those moments. So like
Yes.
we have faith that our collector base, our community can see both sides, and we can say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're saying. Here's like the reason why we touched on it. Here's the changes. And as we've seen today, there might be people like yourself who were a little bit vocal about it. No one
Yeah.
was really against the core idea. And I just want to say, like, a little bit off topic, but I loved seeing that. I love seeing that there was no one coming out like, oh, this is unfair, etc., etc. Everyone got it. The issues we're talking about are these like potential issues of will this change how collectible moments work again in the future? And I wouldn't worry about that personally because this is a very niche one-off situation. Does that
Yeah.
mean that your collectible moments might change in the future? I guess in theory, yeah, but we would always do that in a really tactical, thought-out way because
Hmm.
we have to create a collector score system that works for multiple years, and who knows what happens in a year, 2 years, 5 years time. But we don't want to have like a treadmill where it's an always increasing collectible value because then new users will always struggle. So we have to balance, like, you sign up to the site, you can start collecting those moments. And one of the ways we've done that, for example, is the tiered collector drop, the tiered pack drop, where there's
Yeah.
like different collectible drops. So like stuff like that, I feel shows that we're really considerate of all these different aspects.
Oh, I definitely agree. 100%, which is why I kind of was a little weirded out by this. So I guess my follow up question would be why wasn't there a higher collector score from the get go? Like, why wasn't before the release, why wasn't it brought up that, hey, this is a big deal? This is the first time we're dropping WNBA. These collector score moments should be higher, obviously, because it's the first series of WNBA. And my speculation behind that was, oh, you guys determine things like mint count and collector score via algorithms at this point, based on like user, maybe like marketplace volume, things like that. So you can be like, all right, let's not create bottlenecks. Let's not push these moments too high. Let's not keep them too low. We want to make them accessible to all new users, all this stuff. But I mean, if you guys decide collector score like in a discussion, then obviously like my whole issue, it changes a lot. Cause then I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense that they saw the mistake and fixed it. It's a bummer that it didn't get brought up during the meeting, because I think it would have been really important to say like, hey, like this is really important to the WNBA, to us, to Top Shot. And like, we want you to know that we value these as much as we value Series 1, because this is Series 1 Top Shot debuts of some of these crazy good WNBA players like Ionesca and Tarasi. I think that's how you say it. I'm still learning my WNBA.
Right, mate, I can hardly say like NBA players' names, to be fair. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, as we said in the blog today, it was just a bit of an oversight. And that
Hmm.
isn't necessarily like an okay or acceptable reason. But if I'm being completely frank, it's because the level of excitement we had around WNBA was like these moments and these players. Like you saw so many WNBA players are like getting involved. Like we did Twitter
Yeah,
spaces today with
it
like
was
multiple
so
players.
cool.
And so like it's really hard for us to step back and be like, oh, what about collector score because of all this excitement? And I think it's a really big learning for us as a sort of company, as a team. Like we have to remember some of these core fundamentals and not get too lost in the excitement. And like the blog said, it was a bit of an oversight and
Hmm.
one that we flagged and worked on even before we rolled out the update to figure out like what's the solution here, like how do we make this right without it being unfair. And I do personally feel like our resolution was on the mark, so long as like we make it clear to the community, as we will continue to do. Collect score updates are always going to be communicated and they're always going to be done in a way that accounts for like what people are currently holding. Like
Okay,
the
yeah,
the,
and I
the
mean,
economist is heavily involved in those discussions, to put it that way.
yeah, makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I was very much agreed with this solution, but I like there was someone that had brought it up in on Twitter that I kind of had pushed back on the day before. He's like, "Yeah, why is this not like this?" I was like, "Well, Top Shot, like consistency is very important, and the timing's kind of unfortunate, but it seems that Top Shot's just making it clear that common moments are common, rare moments are rare, legendary moments are legendary, and unfortunately, the WNBA came out after they made that decision going forward." So, and I was like, you know what? Like, I respect that decision because consistency is super important and users knowing what to expect. And like you said, you guys have done such a good job at never rug pulling like users and all. And if anything, just being like, hey, we didn't really see that coming, so we're not going to take that away. But moving forward, that's not going to be there.
Yeah, and it's like it's difficult with the WNBA specifically in the sense that like the season of the WNBA like is different to the NBA season, right? So
Yeah.
we already said Series 2 NBA finishes after the finals, and then we have this like okay, Series 3 starts next season, but WNBA season is kind of in that middle. So it's like it is just it's just difficult in terms of like there's a year of events here. We had
Yeah.
took our series to be on the NBA season, but we don't want WNBA to feel like it's not also an amazing season. So like I
Yeah.
think I don't know how it will look in the future for like the next year, for example, but I do think in this case it does make a lot of sense to go back, and it's just a shame we didn't see that before it went live in product. To be honest.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's great to hear, and yeah, I'm sure, like you guys are still in beta at the end of the day, and everything's a learning process. Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
I again not to pat ourselves on the back, but I do feel like the WNBA launch was just amazing overall, and
yeah.
these sort of like bumps and issues we ran into have all been fixed or are fixable, which is really awesome. Like, I don't think this will be a continued discussion in even a couple of weeks' time,
No,
because
I
people will
don't think
realize like this is a one-off situation, sort of thing.
And no, I mean, you got me. Never, like I said, never watched a WNBA game. Do not know. I knew Sabrina Ionescu because of Kobe and like her close connection with him, and like how she spoke at his funeral and stuff. But I did not know any WNBA players or anything like that. And this whole rollout got me excited about the WNBA, where I'm learning these players' names and watching their moments, and like I'm like, oh, maybe I don't know, maybe if I have time, I will catch like a WNBA game, or maybe I'll watch the playoffs at the very least, and we'll see what goes from there. And I think that's one thing that's really cool about Top Shot is we've seen, and I got to give credit to Mike about this because he was very super pro WNBA and got a lot of pushback from people at first. And he was like, "Look, guys, like there was a bunch of crypto nerds who came into Top Shot not knowing anything about basketball, and now they all watch basketball. You're telling me that this isn't going to like encourage people to watch the WNBA and get excited about the WNBA?" And I mean, I think he's for sure right about that. And it's really exciting to see, like you said, all these WNBA players just organically like tweeting about it and them getting just as excited about it as well.
Like you said, in terms of people getting into NBA from MNFT, I think we will see the same with WNBA. I think we're seeing it already. But what's really awesome is there's some voices that were already on the platform of like female collectors who I maybe like spoke to in DM a little bit before when they were like asking some account questions, and now they're
Mhm.
like proudly on Twitter being like, I'm so happy to see these moments. And like the embracing of this community is awesome. And I think it surprised me. I think it surprised a lot of potential observers of like taking a group of a male dominated environment,
Yeah.
typically speaking, of NFTs combined with NBA, again, quite male dominated fan base, and introducing a more female dominated fan base. And it just going well. Like, yes, there's always going to be some like trolls and negativity, but I would say it's in the minority, and I like strong minority. I mean, like less than
Yeah.
1%. And the way, like, I've been tagged to like, hey, can you deal with this guy? And before I even managed to like ban the guy from the Discord or kick him or tempt mute him, whatever it is, so many people in the community are like, that's not cool. You can't say that. You can't say that. Well, you didn't get out. We'll get like, and it's like, it's insane. Like how self-policed this community have been has got me really excited for what happens in the next few months. And that leads to what you were saying about people watching the WNBA. I feel like it's already happening, and we aren't even pushing it. People are just like, yeah, I want to watch it. I want to find out what's going on here. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's great because for the next couple of months, NBA's in the off season, WNBA's playing. Like, it's awesome that we can start talking about it and start watching it as a community for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and if you like basketball and like you said, WNBA NBA is not on, like why not watch some WNBA instead of watching that highlight reel of LeBron for the 70th time on YouTube for free? So,
Put it in a showcase, mate. You can watch it back to back. You golden.
that's true, that's true. It's a much cleaner transition.